All right, we're talking Red Sox with Bill Koch. And Bill, first team in the bigs to 51 wins, 7 straight victories, homestand sweep. Alex Cora pretty confident afterwards in his discussion with the media. Is it one of those things where everything is sort of going the Red Sox way right now?
Yeah, what's not to like, Yanni? You sweep the homestand 7 in a row, 3 over the Yankees, 4 over the Royals. You have a ton of confidence going into this West Coast trip and really going into July and headed toward the All-Star break and, headed toward the real action at the end of this month, which will be the trade deadline.
I want to put this season in perspective to, and I'm not saying this is a World Series team, but it could be, to 2013 and 18. In 18, they were winning games at such a high clip. At some point, I was like, they have to come back to life, and they never did, and they just won. 13 obviously was a magical season no one really thought was coming. You've covered those teams. What does this season feel like for you? Because we're halfway there, and I'm still like, am I buying in yet?
Yeah, it's closer to 13 than it is to 18. The second one of those seasons, they were just a wrecking machine. They were winning games in any manner possible. They had 2 of the top 3 finishers in the American League Most Valuable Player voting. I definitely think that they were building towards 18. They were the division champions a couple times. They won the division for a 3rd time that year. So you could kind of see it coming. 13 was a bit of a surprise. They signed a bunch of veterans who all had great years at the same time. So this is a little bit closer to that. I would say, Yanni, that you look at this roster and they have some really elite strengths and they have some definite weaknesses. And I think that might be why, considering they struggled in 19 and really struggled in 20, that some people might be a little reluctant to buy in, because you can look at a few spots on this team and say they need to improve those if they're going to be a real contender for a World Series.
Sure. So 3.5 games up on the Rays. Any chance the Red Sox get some breathing room and sort of cruise to a division win, or do you think Tampa and maybe the Yankees or Jays even are nipping at their heels through the summer?
I think the Rays suffered a big injury when Tyler Glasnow went out. Elite pitching has been their calling card over the last few years. It's the reason they made it to the World Series in 2020. Their offense is pretty average. They try to mix and match and hit a bunch of home runs, and that's not necessarily sustainable over 162 games. So I look at the Rays as being flawed. Toronto has major trouble pitching, and the Yankees have major trouble with everything right now, and chief of which is confidence. They're really struggling. Hal Steinbrenner came out early Thursday and gave Aaron Boone and his staff the dreaded vote of confidence. So the Yankees are in a lot of trouble there in 4th place. I see the Red Sox, if they can get healthy here and make a couple good moves at the end of July, they could spread this out. They do have a chance to.
All right, exactly, or as of last night, exactly halfway through the season. Who's your first half MVP for the Red Sox? I'll give you a pitcher and a player in the field.
In the field, it's got to be Xander Bogaerts, Yanni. And I know that, there might be some numbers that say Rafael Devers has been more valuable, and you can make an argument for J.D. Martinez as well. But, what Bogaerts means offensively as an elite shortstop, and what he means as a leader in that clubhouse, a guy who can reach everyone, speaks multiple languages. He has a veteran presence. He's won championships here. He's exactly what you would want to lead the Boston Red Sox. On the pitching staff, I'd say to this point, it's probably Nathan Eovaldi. He's been really good. Another excellent start on Thursday. In terms of his wins above replacement, you're putting him up with guys like DeGrom, Wheeler, Corbin Burns at this point. He's been one of the most valuable pitchers in the league. And I think most importantly, he's taken every turn. Knock on wood, no injuries so far for Nathan Eovaldi. That's always been the question mark for him, is health. Generally, when he's been able to put starts together, he's performed. So I would say Bogaerts and Eovaldi are the 2 guys who've been most important for them so far.
And last one, another big picture question. At this point, with the Red Sox in first place, best record in the AL, what is their basement for achievement? What is their ceiling for achievement this year?
Right now, you have a 7-game lead in the wild card with about 80 to go. So I would say at minimum, you should be grabbing one of those playoff spots as a wild card team. The ceiling, depending on what they add at the trade deadline, you have the most wins in Major League Baseball right now. Why not shoot for World Series? It's Boston. You're supposed to be a contender. You spend like a contender. Let's see some boldness. Let's see some ambition. After you missed the playoffs in 19 and after you were a disaster in 2020, let's get the fan base back. Let's try to make a real bid to get into October and challenge somebody for another championship.
That'll be the big question for Chaim Bloom as he's trying to restock the farm system, but also win now. Always the rub in Boston. All right, he's Bill Koch. He writes for the Providence Journal. Bill, thanks so much for joining us. We'll have much more from the Sports Wrap coming up right after this.